Hey everyone, this is Laura with Laura Academic Astrology, and I'm here to give you the astrology for the week of July 13th through the 19th, 2020. Okay, just give me 1 second. There we go. Okay. Things don't really kick off until Tuesday, the 14th of July. And it's really the 14th and the 15th, and I'll show you in just a second. And this is when we have the sun at 22 degrees of Cancer is making what's called an opposition to Jupiter and Pluto. So this is, like I said, more like the 14th and the 15th. The sun makes an exact opposition to Jupiter on the 14th, and then on the 15th, the sun makes an exact opposition to Pluto, but really they're so close to each other. You can see 22 degrees of Capricorn and Pluto's at 23 degrees of Capricorn. But really, I can't talk about one without talking about the other. So oppositions are challenging aspects. They are aspects that are 180 degrees from between two planets. So you can see the sun is at the exact opposite side of the wheel as Jupiter and Pluto, and this is because Cancer and Capricorn are opposites in the zodiac. So oppositions are can bring up kind of like standoffs. Sometimes it can be conflict, but usually, squares are more about conflict and challenges that must be resolved, whereas oppositions are more like a standoff between two planets where one of the planets normally wins or kind of can walk away from the other one. So this is kind of more about breaking away, breakups, or something coming to a head. So this conjunction between Jupiter and Pluto, this in a very generic way is all about feeling very confident, perhaps overly confident. With the sun opposing these two, there can be a sense of over arrogance, feeling overly justified, perhaps feeling overpowered by someone else, depending on which side of the spectrum you're on. Like, are you on the sun and Cancer side, or are you on the Jupiter Pluto side doing the overpowering? So it's kind of like, it depends on which side of the scale you're on. But in general, there can be a sense of, like I said, overconfidence, over arrogance, or you being that way, or you experiencing someone else that way, feeling overly justified, feeling overpowered once again by someone else, or perhaps you're overpowering someone and you might not even realize it. There can be, overindulging. Jupiter definitely likes to make things bigger and larger than life, and overindulging, maybe even like with food, because Cancer rules the stomach, and Cancers usually receive comfort or like to comfort others through the stomach, through food. So there can be that sense of overindulging. There can also be power struggles. I mean, this Jupiter Pluto is classic power struggle dynamic, especially. I mean, they're both, like I've talked about before, these are two very powerful planets in the zodiac, and are the two planets that represent wealth as well. And so, like I said before, there can be a sense of being overpowered or overpowering another person, but just in general, power dynamics could definitely come up. What's hidden specifically in relationships, or more potentially in family dynamics, or what's going on at home, and this is all Cancerian things, or perhaps something to do with mothers. So if maybe your mom is going through a hard time and is struggling through a power dynamic of sorts. Cancer represents women in general as well. So there can be this power dynamic or power struggle or kind of conflict that comes to some sort of culmination or things being revealed. You know, Pluto is a planet all about what's beneath the surface, and it wants to dig and dig and dig until that thing that's under the surface is revealed, whether it's rot or whether it's gold. And that's yeah, that's very Plutonian. And so there can be this kind of culmination, that's what oppositions are, is kind of a peak or culmination of whatever issue has been lurking under the surface and what needs to be revealed. And once again, those are issues specifically in relationships to women, potentially at home, on the home front, wherever you live or whoever you live with, mothers, family. So yeah, definitely not an easy aspect. Yeah, but you know, ultimately, it's kind of nice for everything to come out into the open so that we can start over and we can start resolving those hidden tensions that have been there for quite some time, and that may have even showed up in some respect this past week when we had the Mercury Mars square. I talked about that in the last video, where there was a quality of airing grievances and being overly honest and being overly direct and speaking your truth and just saying saying things how they are, or saying it how it is. So this is kind of a continuation, I would say, of last week's themes of being honest, of letting deep-rooted issues come to the surface and be revealed, and you know, which could mean breakdowns in relationships, but just to get all the muck out so that you can start with a clean slate. So yeah, and in general, I've mentioned this before, Pluto, Jupiter, the two planets of wealth and power and kind of like high status, represent, just in a kind of larger scope in our society, the movement of money. So the first time these two conjoined was back in late March, I believe, and that was when the CARES Act was passed, and that was when, you know, unemployment benefits were extended, and a huge amount of money was kind of moved around a lot, some of it given to small businesses, but a huge portion of that money was actually given to bail out corporations, because the government, and I'm not quite sure how this went, like what I've read was the government gave the money to the banks and gave them the power to disperse it to the small businesses, but the banks ended up giving it to their highest bidder, which are people or corporations that already had quite a lot of money. So in general, Pluto, Jupiter together represent the shifting of big money, big wealth, and possibly the hidden aspects of that, or, you know, not quite knowing, or not quite knowing what's going on with that, and that being revealed later. But in general, big money being moved, you know, that represented the CARES Act. And then I mentioned this a couple weeks ago, but they conjoined again exactly on June 29th was when Jupiter conjoined Pluto exactly, I believe it was at 24, 23 degrees of Capricorn. And, you know, although there hasn't yet been a second stimulus package, there has been talk of one called the HEROES Act, and it is my guesstimate that that will be passed by the end of the month. And I think that that's going to be the case, especially because by the end of the month, these two planets will still be within 3 degrees of each other. And so whenever two planets are still, or are in general within 3 degrees of each other, they are still acting in accordance with each other. And so I think that this combination definitely has to do with more big money being moved around in our government, possibly some secretive movement of money, but that's not super new. But I wanted to say about the HEROES Act, the Senate reconvenes on July 20th. And so I think it could be possible around that time when they reconvene that could be when the HEROES Act could be passed and benefits could be extended, is my my guess, especially since the sun and the opposition to these two planets is kind of triggering that, and that lasts for quite a few days. Okay, so yeah, it's going to be kind of a tense week, some more conflict, some more stuff being unveiled and being released even, and it could be quite cathartic and quite, you know, healthy overall. It's like cleaning out our closet, even though it might be painful. And it's just that we need to watch our own arrogance, our own sense of rightness, and really practice humility, I think, in this process, and also practice really staying in alignment with our own voice and our own truth at the same time. Okay, and then on the same day, actually, you can see Mars makes a conjunction with Chiron. So Mars is the planet of how we act, how we're motivated, how we take action. It's in general the planet of our energy and our motivation, and Chiron is an asteroid about where we feel wounded or where we are eternally wounded. And so it can represent insecurities we may have, or pain, like literal pain that we feel. And so with this conjunction can come a sore point, so something that's been kind of painful turning into open confrontation, right? That's the sore point could be Chiron. Open confrontation could be Mars and Aries, because Mars is the god of war and rules over conflicts of all kinds. You know, you could also possibly hurt other people, or there could be something coming up around being hurt or wounded with regards to you doing what you want. Mars and Aries is very much so like, I want to do this, I'm going to do it regardless of how you feel. Mars is you know, one of the most independent planets in the zodiac, and represents independence, cutting away from others, doing what you want regardless of what other people think, regardless of how other people feel. And sometimes Mars, especially in the sign of Aries, can be a little bit selfish. I mean, that's kind of the negative side of Mars and Aries. I mean, the positive side is that Mars and Aries, you'll do what you want, and you know, you're putting yourself first. But on the flip side, that can be challenging in relationships when doing what you want and really not thinking about others can hurt people as well. So there can be some pain that is brought up or experienced, or coming to some sort of culmination with regards to feeling hurt because someone else did what they wanted, and that affected you in a perceived negative way. And that can work out whether you're the person doing what you want and that's hurting another person potentially in a relationship dynamic, or you're the one experiencing the pain and the woundedness because the other person acted without thinking about you, or acted upon their own volition, or acted and did what they want regardless of what you thought or felt. So yeah, hurting others in the process of going for what we want, which can be tricky because, you know, we want to do what we want to do, but we also don't want to hurt others in the process. So, you know, there's some lessons to be learned there. We could also feel insecure or wounded in our actions, or potentially in being direct with someone. Yeah, like being direct with someone and doing what we want, saying what we want. Remember, there's still that, the square with Mercury really is still very much there. Hang on. Yeah, okay. I mean, Mercury is now moving direct, right? So we have, we're able to do those communications over again. And I think last week I talked about, actually I know last week I talked about this square with Mercury and Mars indicating conflicts, verbal disagreements, saying things how they are, just being direct and honest and to the point. Well, this is still pretty, I mean, like, it's 4 degrees apart, but it's still a square. Like, this is going to be a square pretty much the whole month. So this idea of conflicts and verbal disagreements or fights, this is going to be a theme for the rest of July. And especially this could be ramped up a little bit on the 14th when Mars conjoins Chiron, because Chiron, you know, is where we're wounded. And so this could be really reacting in verbal conflict from a place of like, I'm hurt. I'm feeling hurt because you did this thing or because you said this. And so, you know, this is really a week of kind of getting it all out there, getting to the bottom of why you're hurt or the other person is hurt in relationship, or yeah, and really kind of moving forward with how to make sure everyone's needs are met, and that we're hearing each other and expressing our wounds. Yeah, something to kind of lighten it up for the week is, one sec. On the, it's kind of on the 16th and 17th, which is a Thursday and Friday. We have the moon conjoining, passing over Venus in Gemini. The moon is the mood of the people, of the common folk, of you, of the mood of the day. And Venus is one of the benefic planets. She represents pleasure and love and beauty and joy and things that we love, and how we have fun and how we attract people to us. And Gemini is all about playfulness and curiosity and communication. So if you don't already have plans to, you know, meet up with people and chat and do something fun in a responsible, socially distanced way, I want to add in there, I would say this is a great day to plan something and to really prioritize having fun. It's a really lovely energy. It's a really lovely couple of days, and it's a really nice break with all of the kind of craziness that's been happening over the past couple of weeks. So that should be really nice and kind of a nice release to what's been going on, and potentially, you know, the end of all of the craziness and kind of a like, oh, okay, like let's have fun now, and let's like put our differences aside. And although this conflict may come up later in the month because that square between Mercury and Mars isn't over yet, let's put our differences aside, our arguments down, our verbal swords down, and just like enjoy each other's company and have fun. So it'll be a really nice time. Well, that is the week of July 13th through the 19th, and if you feel like it, let me know how it went in the comments. That's like literally how I learn to be a better astrologer, is to learn how these impact you. So feel free to comment. Otherwise, I will be back next week with another video, and I hope you have a wonderful week. Okay, bye.